Today I'm going to be talking about The Only Murderers in the Building finale. Just came out a couple of days ago, and I finished it. And if you haven't seen Only Murderers in the Building Season 2 finale, you probably shouldn't be watching this video. Only Murderers in the Building Season 2 pretty much starts off with Mabel having Bunny in her arms and seeing her getting killed and her not being able to really remember what happened, but throughout the season we figured that out, and her and her friends are framed for, the murder, and pretty much the whole season is them trying to kind of give themselves a clean name again while also trying to figure out who killed Bunny. And pretty much what I mean by being framed is they do go to jail, I think, or they get interrogated by the police, but they don't actually get put in jail in the show. But, the perception of that from the outside looking in is that some people will think that, Mabel did this. And during the first 2 episodes, we see people calling her Bloody Mabel on Instagram or even in person as well. And it also doesn't help that there's a podcast that is, I don't remember what the podcast was called, but Tina Fey's character is running that podcast, and she is pretty much anti-Only Murderers in the Building. So it doesn't help that another podcast is kind of giving them a dirty rep. Let's get into the good parts of this season. Although I loved the first season of Only Murderers in the Building, I will have to admit I was a bit concerned going into season 2 just because I thought that it could become a bit too repetitive and certain things would become more predictable. But that was further from the case. I think that this season did a very good job of keeping you engaged in the story while trying to build its world, its overall world of New York in its own way, and making you engaged in that. And because this show has done a great job of building this entire city in the show, you wouldn't mind seeing certain characters pop up. Like in season 1, we saw the Only Murderers in the Building fandom, and when they come up, it's not necessarily a surprise because the show does a good job of making you care about all these characters. Another great thing about this season is the fact that each of the main characters all have their own storylines that the show can kind of leap on when it needs to. Like Charles has a storyline with his daughter, and the daughter is in I think 1 to 3 episodes of the season, but when she's there, it is not wasted at all. And she does come back in the finale, and she doesn't really do much in the finale. I think she's there at the end of the finale. But when she was there in those other 1 or 2 episodes, it was interesting to see Charles's past, which seems to be something that they keep going on to. And it's not even just Charles that they're doing this with. Mabel, who is also a very mysterious character, and when you have a mysterious character, you can really do whatever you want as long as it's not unrealistic. Oliver also has this amazing storyline with his son, and we end up finding out by the end of the season that Oliver's son isn't actually his son, but it's actually one of Oliver's arch nemesis who impregnated Oliver's wife, which that would have made anyone mad, and obviously Oliver had his right to be mad. And even though he tells his son by the end of the season that maybe he's not his father, the son still says that something along the lines of "you can be my only dad" and stuff like that. And I thought that was a pretty touching moment in the season. Also, Mabel and Alice's relationship, though we didn't get too much of it, we got a lot of it in the first couple of episodes, and then she showed up I think around halfway through the season. But we really never learned much about Alice, which I think was intentional because I ended up thinking that Alice was going to be the killer by the end of the season, and it turned out that she wasn't. There is one character who we end up finding out is the murderer, and her name is Poppy. And I liked her storyline more in this season because what this show does is that they make you really understand Poppy's, frustration, because she wants to have her own podcast or something like that in the future, but she's stuck being an intern, and Tina Fey's character doesn't exactly treat her well. So when they do reveal that she is the murderer, you feel this sort of shock, because at least for me, I really liked Poppy's character. and then for her to just be the killer all of a sudden. Though looking back, it's not surprising now that, the motives kind of align with the killer. But it still shocked me because the show did such a great job of making me care about these characters. And that honestly kind of makes Poppy a better murderer than, Jan, who was, Steve Martin's love interest in last season. Not saying that I wasn't invested in that storyline with Tim Kono, but I do think that I cared a bit more this season about the killing than I did last season. Let's get into the bad parts of this season, and there's only a few things. Let's start off with the first thing. It's just a prediction of mine. Like I said a couple of minutes ago, I thought that Alice was going to be the murderer of this season, which I thought made sense just because of the way that we really didn't know that much about her, and it seemed to have been a pattern that I feared, where last season it was Charles's love interest, and this season it was going to be Mabel's. So I thought maybe there was something there, but we end up finding out that it's Poppy, and I'm guessing Alice is going to come back for next season. But the way that they ended up doing it kind of caught me off guard, but it ended up working at the end. But it's just not what I expected. Also, Michael Rappaport's character, he has this little thing that he has going on where he has, he's struggling to pay bills just like any other New Yorker. And he ends up, doing some extra jobs so he can get some money. And we actually find out that he's sleeping with Poppy as well, which was definitely unexpected because 1 or 2 episodes prior they showed us with Tina Fey's character, which made sense. But I wish I would have gotten more of that. I feel like that storyline was just kind of rushed, and then when they put Poppy with Michael Rappaport's character, it was just kind of random because there was literally no connection or no hinting towards that. It just kind of happened. The next part is really just a criticism potentially for next season, is that I think for Only Murders in the Building, I think the potential for however many seasons they want to do is just going to come down to, the quality of the show. And I think that going into next season, obviously Paul Rudd's character got poisoned. We don't know whether or not he's dead, but it's not looking good for him. But I do think that hopefully season 3 can still maintain, what makes the show work while also incorporating new things that can make audiences engaged with the season. I think the show's done a good job of making us care about stuff outside of the murders, but at the end of the day, the show is about these 3 people solving a murder. Overall, guys, Only Murderers in the Building Season 2 was just as great as the first season, and I'm gonna go ahead and give Only Murderers in the Building Season 2 a 9 out of 10.